It's time, everybody. Crimson Desert. I previewed it. I played it for 6+ hours, and I'm here to tell you all about it today. Real quick spark notes are that I'm very, very impressed. I don't think it's going to be a game for everybody. It is a sandbox game through and through, meaning you kind of have to motivate yourself to go and explore and do crazy stuff. But if you're looking at like this map and you're seeing stuff like the spire and you're seeing a city over there and you're seeing this spire over here and you're like, I want to go explore, I want to go find those things, this is the game for you. Okay, this is how it works. If you are the type of player who really enjoys games like Breath of the Wild, that's how this is structured as far as I can tell. There are basic quest lines for the main story after you get through the first probably 10 hours, is my guess, where it's all about teaching you the mechanics in those first 10 hours. And then it opens up, and I imagine it's going to be like, there's a quest line to go explore the desert. And then there's a clue that one of your party members is over in the big city. And then there's a clue that one of them is up in the mountains. Just like in Breath of the Wild, you know, when you have each of the whatever they're called, I don't remember what they're called, guardians, whoever they are, each of the main characters that end up adding abilities to you, you know, and it motivates you to go to that area. But once you're in the area, you're largely exploring for the sake of exploring and for the sake of adventure, right? That is, I think, what this is going to be structured like, and I'm okay with that. But some people will be frustrated by it. They want more story. They want more of a guided experience. They want more hand holding or whatever you want to call it. That's not what this game is. Okay. To be very, very clear, that's not what this game is. This is kind of the anti-yellow paint game. There's very few tutorials in the game. A lot of it is left up to you figuring it out. As a result, if you're the type of player who's good at puzzles and good at sort of breaking things down and solving things and thinking creatively, you're gonna love it. You're gonna eat this up and probably have an easy time with it. Other people who like a little more guidance are going to struggle, I think. I think there's gonna be a lot of times doing puzzles where people just get totally stuck and are like, I have no idea what to do. And they're going to get frustrated because the game does not hold your hands. If you know how in God of War Ragnarok, there was that one moment where like you walk into a puzzle and then there's like a trough of water, and the puzzle is you have to freeze it so the water spills over and fills up another trough and everything. There was a problem where when the game launched, Atreus would solve the puzzle for you within like 5 seconds of arriving. He would just be like, oh, look at that trough. I bet we could freeze it. It was like, dude, I haven't even tried to solve the puzzle. That is the opposite of this. This game is like, you've been stuck on this puzzle for 45 minutes. Stupid. Like it is totally unapologetic in its lack of yellow paint. Okay. So I want to be clear about that. Are there load screens? Once you're loaded in, no. When you boot into the game, at least the build I played, the load in, that first load in from main menu to starting the game was very long. It was like flashback to PS4 era. But once you were loaded in, it was no load screens at all. So once you're in the world, there's nothing like that. So even this, like where I went from down on the surface up to this sky island floating around. And then later on in this clip, I go and where's a snippet of it? They broke it up into like smaller 15-minute recordings for us. But it also means that sometimes the clip I want to show is not there. Here, I think it's in this one here. So you can see like right here, there's a point where I will dive down and there's no load screens at all when you do this jump. It just goes straight down. They do sort of like the magical cube thing, and it kind of glitches out as you dive down. But then you're good to go. So just watch this. Seamless from the sky island all the way up there. Camera swings around. You can go straight down. I won't tell you why, but also you should, when you play this, there's a button to just dive straight down instead of gliding and floating off. Do that. Dive straight down, because right down here is a guy that will get you something good that is fun. But you can see like these are the extent of the tutorials. They'll show you how, like basically what a button does, and that's it. What about console performance? Great question. I'm glad you asked, my friend. I'm glad you asked. So this is sort of the omnipresent question. Leading into the preview was performance. What is the performance? And with this, I'm happy to tell you, we were playing on ultra wide, as you can tell, but on my PC, we were running on a 9700 XTX, I believe it's called. It is a last gen AMD GPU. It's the same hardware that seemingly Digital Foundry was running their tests on. That hardware was capable of running this at 3440 by 1440p with everything on Ultra, and it ran everything on Ultra with no upscaling, just using anti-aliasing, and it managed to run that at a solid like 80 frames per second for me. And for me, it never dipped, it never stuttered, it never lost it. Like there was never a time where it was like you entered this building and it drops to 20 frames. Nothing like that ever happened. What did I say? Did I not say 7900 XT? Did I say 9700 XT? I think I flipped it. Anyway, yes, you guys are right. 7900 XT sounds right. So on PC, if you have the hardware to run it, it's like crazy. You're right. That is PC performance. What about base console? Good question. Well, there's been a couple of things that just happened this morning. A Korean video on a preview that they got access to over there. And they apparently got some information out. Okay, so Cammy clipped this. Shout out to Cammy for clipping this. Let's see what it says.
Many were particularly curious about the frame rate on the PS5. And fortunately, I can now answer that question. At this media preview event, I was able to experience Red Desert on the PS5 for the first time.
If you're wondering why it sounds weird, this is YouTube's new like AI translation thing. So the creator's voice is like duplicated and then used to render the translation from Google Translate of the captions. It's weird. That's why it sounds weird and why the translation is slightly off, where it's like Red Desert instead of Crimson Desert. But that's why it sounds weird, okay? It's YouTube's thing, okay? But I'll just again.
I was able to experience Red Desert on the PS5 for the first time. Please note that recorded footage is no longer available, so what you see on screen is the PC version. I should also note that the PS5 version I saw wasn't the latest build and may be refined with a daily patch before release. Arus. While I didn't provide frame rates, I did see some differences, but it felt like 40 frames at 4K. As you know, the latest AAA games on the PS5 typically run at 30 frames per second at 4K in resolution priority mode, desaggy mode. And in frame priority mode, full HD 60 frames is the default, but even in 4K it felt smoother than 30 frames, and I played a short 10 segment where you attack a camp occupied by humanoid to mid-game, and it was playable without any major or frame drops, even though countless enemies were moving around. Screen.
Sorry. With the auto translations, like, I don't know what to do. So it's sorry.
The open world graphics are truly impressive, no matter how many times I watch them. Come to think of it, if it were the basic PS5, I would be a little worried about whether to use resolution priority mode or frame priority mode.
Okay, so to put this clearly, because I understand that might have been hard to understand, just a little. My understanding after all of that is that based on this Korean gamers preview and time with the game and testing it on PS5, on quality mode, it's doing 4K. I don't know, upscale. I don't know what the PS5 base is capable of, but on quality mode, it is floating between 40 and 45 FPS on quality mode. So it's unlocked. They're not locking it at 30. They'll let it go higher if it can, but it's floating between 40 and 45 with VRR, something that is perfectly fine for quality mode. Very good actually for quality mode. Most games lock it at 30. If you play on performance mode, they're saying it goes to a 60 FPS state, and it's doing that with full HD, which is also fairly standard for modern AAA games. That's what he says he found in his testing. Now, beyond that, there's also been like a PlayStation blog post where they've explained, you know, their kind of preview. They have a bunch of the same snippets of stuff that we've seen. So none of this is like particularly novel or crazy. I don't remember them or seeing them do something like this, but there you go. And this is obviously them kind of hyping it up and trying to make it really exciting. But you can see Perlibis also told me it optimized Crimson Desert for the PS5 through a number of features to help maintain all the detail at larger scale, making use of geometry shader over subscription and NGG culling to render lots of elements without losing detail. On PS5 Pro, the recent upgrade to PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, PSSR, makes it possible for Crimson Desert to hit 4K resolutions at higher frame rates, and its ray tracing capabilities make lighting even effects more realistic and natural, which to me, this sounds like they're saying the PS5 Pro is going to be able to do 4K 60, probably using PSSR to upscale it. So it won't be 4K 40 frames, they'll actually be able to hit 60 by cranking it with more firepower and also using PSSR and stuff. So my expectation, based on this Korean preview and based on the statements from the PlayStation blog, is that the game probably runs on performance mode on PS5 at 60 frames, and on quality mode, it's going to run 40 to 45. If you're playing on PS5 Pro, it can upscale and go to 4K 60 upscaled. That's my expectation. So while we didn't get access to the console footage or port, people in Korea did, and that's what they're saying. Okay, that's what they're saying. Series S, God knows. God knows. I will say, if it's able to run it, if the PS5 can run it at 1080p 60 on performance mode, the Series S maybe is like 1080p 30. I feel like that's what most games end up on, or end up running at on the Series S. If it can do 1080p 60 performance mode for the PS5, it's gonna do, 30 on the Series S. That's my guess. That would be my guess. But anyway, that's where it's landing. My understanding is that they're going to have a lot more detail and like actually break out specific targets and basically say all of the stuff that they're saying in this Korean video. They're gonna say it and put it in a nice like graphic, probably in the next week, I would guess. But we just have to wait for that. But the Korean previews said that that's what you can expect in terms of PlayStation performance. Okay, all on the same page there. So and God knows about the Mac performance. I have no idea, man. But with the fact that they're releasing on Mac is crazy to me, but who knows how it runs on Mac. So there you go with console performance. Okay, there's that. Now, as for the game itself, there were a few things that I was curious about when I booted up. Number one is obviously performance. We kind of talked about that. The only other thing I'll mention that you'll see throughout some of this footage is like NPC pop-in. I was told that will be better at launch. It was something that I kind of mentally tuned out very quickly, but if you start to look for it, you might be able to find it in various places. But overall, very, very solid. And I want to be clear, I was pretty lucky, it seemed. I did not have any bugs. I did not have any crashes. I didn't have anything like that in my time with the game. However, there were people around me, I honestly felt really bad for them, who had like 2 crashes in their time in the first 4 hours with the game. Oh, right there. Let me show you. So with this, I'll show you. You can chop down trees, as we were wondering, but you have to do it with the specific axe that you equip to your inventory. There's different items like shovels, fishing rods, axes, things like that that are used as tools in the world. You have to specifically equip them in order to use them. So you can't just like chop at a tree with a regular sword and it chopped down, as far as I understand. But there's that. I also believe you can use the axe as a weapon as well if you want to, but I don't know if you need to do that. PlayStation exclusive Jason Schreier video. Yes, I will talk about that. Was it Skill Up? Skill Up was not at my event. Skill Up, I'm assuming, I don't know if he went to the one in Korea. I didn't know if there was one in Australia, because I think we actually had somebody from Australia at our event. Maybe he went to the one in Amsterdam, because I think they had an Amsterdam event for Europe. They had the LA event for the Americas, and at least some people in Australia. And then they had one in Korea for Asia. I'm not sure which one he went to. I'm not sure, honestly. Can you respec skills freely? I believe so. At least when I was testing it, they let you like unlearn it and reapply it. The skill tree is kind of crazy. You can apply skills wherever you want. If you want to just instantly level up stamina, you can do that. If you want to learn a bunch of abilities, you can do that. It's very, very open-ended and free like that. What really blew me away though was just how alive everything felt. Like, I can't think of a game in recent memory that had like this density of NPCs all going about their like routines and schedules. It was mind-blowing just how much detail and how much stuff was going on. Even that, I bumped him and his basket of oranges fell off. Like, it's just kind of crazy how much stuff is going on at any given moment. Oh, this is one detail I wanted to share with you though. I mentioned it in the video yesterday. So at one point you reach this, or the video today. At one point you reach this point. There's a tower. It's got vines growing on it. You are tasked with burning down the vines. So you have to use I think the official way is they want you to use your bow and arrow, light the arrow in the fire, and then shoot it, and it turns it into a fire arrow and burns it down. That's what you're supposed to do in theory. The person sitting next to me, however, had either run out of arrows or it was bugged or something like that was going on. I'm not sure. But one of the devs came over, grabbed the controller, and was like, oh, let me show you something. And there's an ability that Cliff has where he can lift his sword and reflect light. And it's used for solving puzzles where it's like light up this orb and it unlocks the door or whatever. The dev used it to reflect the sunlight onto the plants, and that lit them on fire. Like, what? I never, ever would have thought to do that. But I think there's going to be a lot of stuff like that in the game. Little bitty things like that. Just cool mechanics and cool things that you had no idea could even work. Even like there was another time I referenced in the late game save that we got the chance to try where there was a high platform and most people were like just trying to parkour up the side of a wall to get to the upper platform. And I was like, I think that's what you maybe are supposed to do. But I was like, I'm going to be clever. So there's an ability, if you press left stick down, it basically activates like a little blue dot, and you can use it to like grapple onto things with the little like claw thing you've seen in trailers. And when you do that, you can then hold down left trigger and wind with the right stick, and it pulls the tree down towards you, and you can use it like a slingshot. And so I just slingshotted up to the upper platform, skipping the climb, and landed perfectly on the platform. And I think it's because the devs knew that people might do that and placed that tree there for that purpose, which is really cool. It's really cool. So I think that there's going to be a lot of little bitty things like that. Now, the other things like the combat was super expansive. There's a lot more going on there than I think initially meets the eye. The open world stuff is really impressive. You know, there's all of that stuff going on, but let's talk about some of the less obvious or less smooth things. The way I've compared this after this preview event is that it feels like one of those MMOs that's super complicated that doesn't explain very much, and that you kind of need a guide or somebody to help you understand what's going on. Otherwise, you might be bashing your head against the wall because there is very little yellow paint. There's very little guidance. There's basic tutorials for move sets and button prompts and stuff like that. But as for mechanic interconnections and stuff, it's pretty unguided. It's definitely left open for you to figure out. I kind of love that. Some people will absolutely hate it. Okay. But I want to bring that up because I saw one of you guys mention, a reviewer mention a helmet that you wear that is used to like relive memories. That is something as part of the main quest. You get access to this little helmet, and it's a technology that basically lets you relive memories and kind of, it's almost like the Batman Arkham thing when you reconstruct a crime scene. It's kind of like that. But in order to use it, there's kind of two ways. You can either use the left onto the D-pad, like go equip the helmet, and then you scan by holding L1 the site where something is happening. You'll see little blue sparks on your lantern if there's a memory nearby to be reconstructed. So you have to see that, put the helmet on, scan for the memory, reconstruct it when you do that. The other way of doing it is to look for and this is where I think some people got caught up. There's a button prompt in the bottom right over here that pops up when there's a memory to be reconstructed. And if you press the start button on the controller, it will do all of those steps for you, basically. It will equip the helmet, quote unquote, equip it, and go through the list of memories, select it, and play it out for you. It doesn't show you that happening. It just skips all that and effectively selects the memory and replays it for you. I think what happened is because some people were playing on ultra wides, they didn't see that button down there because they're used to shorter or tighter monitors. So they didn't see that little UI element. It was kind of hidden. Because if you've not played on an ultra wide monitor, it's really easy to miss this UI in the far side. I think that might have been what happened. So parts of it are more streamlined than maybe our first evident or apparent, but that is perhaps an example of something that is just like there's a lot of steps. It's very MMO-esque, where it's like this is a lot of steps to go through. A lot of steps. How'd you like the elemental powers? So the elemental powers are abilities that you get primarily in the late game, it seems. But these are the things where like you can equip a certain element onto your weapon to deal fire damage or ice damage or whatever. Those I got access to in the end game, and I do think they work well, and it's going to come with learning and testing and seeing what specific bosses might be weak to. My understanding is that there might even be some bosses that are weak at to different things at different phases. So phase 1, they might be weak to fire. Phase 2, they might be weak to water, something like that, you know, or wind or whatever it is. So there's different options. You'll also notice some of the different move sets I'm doing in here, and this that just popped up here. So a lot of the abilities and things in the game are learned. The way you learn something is by holding down L1 or left bumper and sort of scanning it, and the bar will fill up. And when it's filled up, you've learned that ability. So you don't unlock evasive roll until you've either completed the skill thing in the skill tree to get it, or defeated this boss who effectively teaches you that ability by you beating them. Theoretically, if you can lock onto him while he's doing the roll and do the slow time mechanic and focus on him, you could learn the ability in the middle of the boss fight, which is cool. I'm not good enough for that, so I didn't do that, but that's what that is. Okay, these learnings in progress. Let's see, what else is there? Oh, but you'll see that some of the abilities I'm doing are not just basic R1, R2 attacks. So like that, what I just did, that jab, that is done by pressing right bumper or R1 and triangle or Y at the same time. So you press those two buttons at the same time, it does a jab. RB and B at the same time does this kind of sweep thing. With a dual-handed greatsword, that sweep turns into a scoop and juggles the enemies up into the air. That's a perfect parry that you just saw there. And then you tie these combos together. And then this is an R2 combo, tying together heavy attacks. This is another R2 combo. And then he parries back and he's going to try to get away, but I break him and it goes seamlessly into a motion captured cutscene to finish the boss fight out. Because why not? And that's one thing that you'll see as you play the game, is that across the board, the production quality is just outrageous. Like there just isn't really a comparison. In my big main channel video, I mentioned that it feels like, you know, a lot of games nowadays claim to be like open world RPGs. And the whole time, like I was playing this, I was reminded of some of the recent games from like a Ubisoft or an EA. And, you know, you see all of these games that are very ambitious and they look really pretty, but when you put some stress on it, there's just not, like, a lot of corners are cut. AC Shadows being a great example, where it's just like, there's a whole lot of things that just are not high effort. Just not high effort. A lot of things are just kind of taken for granted. Even something as simple as this. So did you notice what just happened in that gameplay footage that I just showed you? Did you notice? Did you notice what just happened? They could have just had me receive a notification that I got a message from somebody. But instead what happens is that they have a literal bird that flies with a little scroll in its mouth. It landed on my shoulder. And you'll notice, again, it's easy to miss it with the ultra wide, but you'll notice a button prompt in the very bottom right that says take. It's because when they need certain characters to get in contact with you, a bird literally flies down to your shoulder and hands you a little scroll. Like what? It's crazy. It's crazy. There's all sorts of stuff like that that I love. Some people will probably not. Some people are like, I want a clearer quest journal. I want to just receive it. Like if you're looking for one of those junk food games that kind of plays itself, that is not this game, it seems. That is not this game. Does base PS5 have ray tracing? I believe so. I believe so. Because I believe it's integral to how the game renders everything. Just like GTA 6, they've said that no, there's no version of the game without ray tracing. Like it's how the game is built. It is built around that. So I don't think there's anything like that. Can you pet cats? Fantastic question. You can do more than that, my friend. You can do more than that. Let me show you. I have a quest line to show you. So there was a little bitty quest line early in the game. Again, this is like first hour probably. I knocked up poor. Sorry, did you see that? Did you see it? Just listen to what this little girl yells at me.
You watch it.
Wait. Watch this. I plowed through her.
You are a bad person.
Honestly, for trampling a kid, fair. But you'll notice over here, I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, there's a little quest right here.
Something wrong?
We're running late, but he just won't come down. We've got to get back before anyone notices. The chief's going to be really upset.
And so you literally help her get this cat down from the top of the house. And once you do, here, right here, you can actually pick up the cats and carry them and like pet them. Meow. See, like he carries it like a baby. He carries it like a baby. And they have unique animations for balancing on the rooftop while holding a cat. Because why not? Like, again, you see kind of what I mean when it's like, is anybody else even trying? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So, but yeah, this is another example. There's also, I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe there's a narrative reason why certain areas have a lot of cats. I think there's a purpose. I mean, there's a purpose for that. Is it worth purchasing? So here's kind of where we're at. The preview left me thoroughly impressed. I was very impressed with the preview, but it is a game some people are just not gonna get. Some people are gonna see it and just be like, I don't understand, like, why people like this. I need more guidance. I need more, again, hand holding sounds bad, but like, that's kind of what I mean. Some people want a lot more structure in their games. And if they don't get those bits of structure, they are frustrated and they don't know what to do. This is a game that has a lot of mechanics and people need that structure. And if they don't get the structure, they're lost and they don't know what to do. Shout out this guy's knee. When I opened the menu, it went to his knee. So it's a game that needs a lot more self-direction. And if you love the idea of that, because some of you will love the idea of that, it's almost certainly going to be a game that you really enjoy. If you need more like guidance, it's not going to be that. This is very much the anti-yellow paint game, unapologetically. It's just, that is not what this game is at all. And that means people that like it are going to love it. I really do think that some people are going to play this and it will be their like game of the PS5 generation. They're going to love it. There's going to be other people who try it and are like, I don't know how to solve the puzzles. What am I supposed to do? I don't understand. You know, it's up for you to decide. After the preview, I played this for 6+ hours and I told them, if you told me right now I can skip dinner and play for another 6 hours, I would. Like, I want to just play more. I want to go see what this spire is. I want to go see what this castle is. I want to see what this thing is. It kind of looks like a carving of a wolf. I want to know what that is. I want to go explore. And if you love the idea of that, that's awesome. Okay, so at this point, I think based on everything people know about the game, if you don't get it, that's okay. It's just not for you. If you like what you're seeing, it is in many ways exactly what it looks like in the trailers. Nothing more, but nothing less. It is everything they've shown. I haven't seen anything that I would consider to be like a fake mechanic or something staged or whatever. Everything I've seen is here and is solid. It's just people who are still holding out hope that there's like, you know, a Witcher 3 level narrative. That's just not what this game is. It is much more Breath of the Wild than it is Witcher 3. Okay? Okay? Yeah, so this game is not for journalists. Well, it brings up the question of like, what do you think this Metacritic score is going to come in at? I do think there's going to be a lot of journalists who try to play this and will get stuck and will not know what to do or how to solve puzzles. I said in my big video on the main channel, I was like, I personally, if I had feedback for them, I would say I would like the puzzles to be more difficult. I thought they were kind of like straightforward, you know, the typical puzzle where it's like more tedious than it is difficult, where it's like, okay, looking at the puzzle, okay, I know what I have to do now, I just have to go do it. Like, there's not a whole lot of careful consideration, at least on the puzzles that I did. So I would like more difficult puzzles. It's come to my attention this morning that there were people who really struggled with the puzzles. So I don't want to just assume everybody is like me and is having an easier time with those. I don't know, but I'm assuming that that's going to be like a sticking point for some people that might struggle it. Yeah. And, you know, no shade. Not everybody. There's even some puzzles which are very, very easy that I will struggle with because like sometimes your brain just is not clicking with what you think you should be doing. But it's just a matter of difference for players. But I do think that the people that love this game are going to love it. But I also think that the first few hours, just as a point of consideration for all of you, my feeling is after the preview that this whole area, this city, this spire here, all of this stuff, I think all of this is probably like the first 10 or so hours. And it's sort of like the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, where it's the training ground, it's where you get your feet under you, and then it opens up. I saw one of you guys asking, is there even a desert in this game? There is. It is. Let's see if I look over the vast expanse in this shot. Yeah, you can sort of see here. This is the Crimson Desert. This right here. That's the area the game is named after. We've seen very, very little of it, but my understanding is like this is a fifth of the game's map is the Crimson Desert. The other areas are each a fifth, and there were allusions mentioning that to see everything the game has to offer, it will take hundreds of hours. They said completionist runs are probably in the realm of hundreds of hours because of how much stuff is here. They've shown the least of it for a reason. Maybe there's cool stuff. Maybe there's narrative stuff. Maybe it's super broken and buggy. We don't know. But that's why ultimately, you know, a lot of this game is a matter of unknown quantities, you know. It's pretty standard for massive games to polish the early game and to work on the end game stuff later. That's the other piece of this is that my 4 hours from the beginning of the game, I had no real technical issues at all that I would consider to be like bugs or anything disruptive. People around me, like I said, did have some crashes. They did have some other problems. We were told there was a known GPU driver issue that will not be present at launch. They said it's just, we don't have official drivers from AMD and NVIDIA. So there's going to be crashes because we don't have drivers. Make of that what you will. That's what they told us. I didn't have any crashes. Other people did. That being said, in the late game saves, I did run into bugs. I did run into like a puzzle where a button wasn't pressing correctly. And I had to reload from a checkpoint and then the puzzle and the button clicked correctly. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Other people though, they had things where like there was a boss fight on top of a sky island. And this I don't think is the same one. Maybe it is. This might actually be the same sky island. This might be the one we went to. I'm not sure. It looks similar because the big ring, it might be the same one. But basically like you land up here and then you go through a series of puzzles and you get through a door that's right there. You push on through and then there's a big boss fight in here. Big boss fight. Somebody didn't stand on the checkpoint. And so when they jumped and fell off, they fell all the way down to the surface. And there was a problem because because when they did that, this platform didn't reset to wherever you get on it. So they couldn't actually get back up to the platform. That's a bug. They said that's supposed to reset. If you don't do the checkpoint, it resets so you can get back up there. It didn't. So if they had not reloaded, they would be soft locked out of this sky island forever, which sucks. So hopefully that's a bug that gets fixed. Somebody else was doing a boss fight and they died. And when they reloaded back in, it spawned them back under the arena. So they spawned back in for the boss fight and just instantly fell to the ground. Okay, so there were bugs like that happened in that end game save. That to me indicates that there might be bugs, you know, that are more prevalent in the end game than the early game, that they're polishing the early game first and foremost, which is what every studio does, to be very clear. Baldur's Gate 3 is a great example of one that was a massive game, and Act 3 at launch was broken as hell. Super, super broken. So, you know, hopefully they fix that stuff by launch or very, very shortly after it by the time people reach it. But that is something to be aware of, is that I did run into bugs in the late game save. Maybe I was just really lucky not running into any in the early game saves, or maybe just the early game is really, really polished. But, you know, when we talk about, we haven't seen much of the Crimson Desert area. Maybe that's because this is also really buggy. Maybe it's just because it's a cool area that they don't want to show everything the game has. We don't know. But that's why ultimately reviews are the best thing to just wait for. Just be cautious and wait for reviews. Why not? You know? How was it at night? Was it actually dark or just blue day? My friend, I appreciate you setting me up for the slam dunk like that. Nighttime is actually dark. It's actually like dark. It's pretty. Here it is. Yeah, this is like a little snippet of what some of the nighttime looks like. It's actually very, very dark. And because it's all ray traced, all of the shadows are accurately reflected and depicted. This is that memory reconstruction helmet I was talking about earlier. It's a vibe, it's a fashion statement. But you can see it's actually dark. It's actually dark, which is refreshing, frankly, to have a game where nighttime is actually nighttime. So it looks very, very good. It looks very good. Let's see. Let me read these real quick. The most important question of all is how will it run on my i7 8700K and 5070 combo? My understanding, please chat, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the 7900 XT is roughly equivalent to like is it a 5070 Ti? Yeah, roughly about there. So it's in like that $700 to $800 range. My guess is if you're running a 5070, you're probably floating somewhere in like, 1440p at 60 on Ultra. If you drop down lower to lower settings, you're probably back up at like 1440p or maybe even 4K natively 60 if you drop the settings. But if you start using things like DLSS, I'm sure you can get even better resolutions and stuff. $1 million question. Do the horse testicles shrink/expand based on temperature? If not, why even bother? Fantastic question. I'll find that out in the review. I didn't spend a lot of time scrotum peeking in my time with the game, but I promise I'll be better. I'll do better. I'll do better. Let's see. Arf, thank you for the 10. I'm running on a bit of a delay, so I don't know if you talked about this yet, but do you have any new info on the playable characters? Like, is it just cosmetics, certain weapons, different skill trees? I did not have the chance to try them. I know somebody who did. And got to load into an endgame save and try them. Or at least the girl. I don't think they tried the orc dude. My understanding is that she has a totally unique moveset, combat style, all of that stuff. So she's not just like cosmetic. Unka, yeah, that's it. Unka, thank you. My understanding is that it's actually unique combat movesets and everything. I was not able to get a firm answer on whether you can use them to like refight bosses or if you can use them to go take on boss fights to experience them in a different way. I don't know. The nice thing about this being on PC is that I imagine there's also going to be a lot of like modding that happens where people do like custom boss rush modes and stuff like that, which I think is going to be really, really cool. Can you play a lot of the overworld as Damien, the female playable character? My understanding is once they are unlocked, you can use them wherever. There's just going to be certain like main story stuff is for Cliff. But the once you have the playable characters unlocked, you can switch to them whenever. My expectation, based on kind of how it was phrased to me, is that certain areas of the map will have certain characters like that. Maybe there's more than 2 playable characters. I genuinely don't know. But like if Unka is over in the Crimson Desert, that's probably the reward for finishing all of the quest lines in the Crimson Desert is you unlock Unka. And maybe the other characters other character is Damien is in the snowy region or something. And so once you complete all those quests, you get rewarded with her as a playable character. And then you can basically swap to them while you're exploring and doing side content and things like that. But the main story is going to be Cliff. That's my expectation. How is build crafting? Much more generous than I thought it would be. So I thought it was going to be a fairly straightforward like skill tree where it's like literally you start at the base of the tree and you work up, and everybody eventually after 50 hours, has splintered off pretty aggressively. Because to be clear, when we talk about like a skill tree, that's literally why they call it that, because everybody starts in the same spot, but it eventually starts to splinter off. And the further along you go, the more divergent everybody's experience can be, as time goes by. So even though we all start in the same spot, we end up very differently the further along you go. The longer you play, the more different your play style is or your character is than everybody else's. That is not how this works in Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert, it's much more akin to like your more traditional ARPG where people might start in the center, but it is just immediately letting you do whatever you want with the skills. And it's not even starting here because they'll let you just select this skill immediately if you want. They'll let you select this skill if you want. There's a couple that have prerequisites where it's like if you want this skill, you have to unlock these skills first, in order to get them, and that funnels into it. But for the most part, it's very, very open-ended where they let you just figure it out. So you feed the dogs. Apparently, I didn't test this, but I spoke to somebody when I was eating a sandwich who had tried to feed a dog. They put a cooked steak on the ground and a dog did come out from behind a building and ate it. So yeah, apparently you can. You can also pet the dogs, yes. Again, I did not test that, but apparently that is a thing that happens, is if you put cooked food out, animals will come and eat it. So there you go. What about resetting? Yeah, you can reset the skills, reapply them. Where would I rank this in terms of difficulty compared to something like Elden Ring? So important thing to understand. There is no difficulty setting, just like in Elden Ring. There's no difficulty setting in Crimson Desert. It is based on the equipment that you have. So it's skill and gear based on what skills you've equipped and abilities you have, in addition to also your playable talent and skill, but also your gear. So technically, if you go off immediately and you just start exploring and doing side stuff, you can get gear that will make your time with the game way easier than it is for people that just mainline the main story, right? For example, I got that dual-handed greatsword. I found that at a little altar on the side of the road. I was speaking to people after the event that didn't find that and were using the basic short sword for some of the early boss fights and stuff, and they were having a much more difficult time with it. So I imagine it's going to be one of those things where like the game rewards you for exploring and for finding good stuff. And that's where most of your power is going to come from. By spotting like this, whatever this is, like a temple or something, by spotting that, being like, I bet there's something good there. And you float down and you go explore it. And at the end, there's amazing armor or a really good weapon or something in there. And that is how they reward you for doing that. And I find that to be much more exciting to reward my exploration that way than just like, oh, you got a new haircut available to you, you know? Do enemies also level scale? No, my understanding is that the enemies here are what they are. So if you level up, you get crazy powerful and you come back later, they will be a joke. You'll be able to walk right through them. They will not just magically scale to you. That also means though, that if you go to a later game section, like over in the Crimson Desert, they're really high level. And so they're going to kick your ass if you go before you're ready. You know, that's my understanding of how it works. You'll also see, this is also just interesting. So the dynamic weather system is fully dynamic. And what's interesting about this is that, you know, we all started the game at the same time. So we all started playing the 4 hours pretty much at the same time. There were some people who couldn't start because they didn't have enough stations at the start of the event. But we all started playing effectively at the same time. And because the weather system is fully dynamic, it spawned differently for each player. So I'm going through the story and I'm fighting this boss or I'm doing this sequence with a massive rainstorm outside. The person to my left is playing with it being kind of sunny and beautiful outside. And it totally is, it's totally different based purely on the dynamic weather. And they embrace that, meaning as far as I understand it, even like main story quests are privy to this dynamic weather system. So your experience in the game is going to be totally different from everybody else's based on the weather. And it's fully dynamic in that way. One thing I did want to test and want to find out was whether or not there's like the Breath of the Wild lightning thing. If it's like, if you have a sword on your back, if lightning comes in, does it strike you? I wanted to see if that happens. I wasn't able to test it, unfortunately. I don't know if that's a thing. I would assume no, but time will tell. Time will tell. Can you leave a marker to a point of interest? Yes, I believe so. 2 questions. What kind of controls and customization are there with third-person camera distance? Also, are there reoccurring enemies and bosses? Reoccurring is kind of tricky because I think I know what you mean. You mean like, are there bosses that will sort of respawn so that you can fight them again? As far as I know, I think as of right now, no. I don't think they've confirmed anything like that, but I'm not frankly sure. Because I would imagine if there are, it's probably like an end game grind thing. And so I just don't know. I just don't know, but possibly, you know, never say never. Never say never. But having said that, as for the third person camera distance. So when you are playing, if you press on the D-pad, it goes through, I believe it's 3 different camera distances, close, medium, and far. And if you press it one more time, it goes to first person view. When it goes to first person, you can't do combat. If you try to attack, it'll pull back to third person, but it's useful for like exploring environments, caves, interiors of buildings and stuff, because you actually just go see it through his eyes. It makes it much easier to explore and navigate. Honestly, it makes me wonder why more games don't just do that. Even if you're like, hey, the combat, we don't want to do first person combat. Cool. Just do what they're doing and have it zoom out to third when you start fighting, you know, why not? So yeah, that is something you can do. How's the music and ambiance of the game world? Witcher vibes through and through. Even some of the same instrument choice, which they knew what they were doing. You know, they knew what they were doing. Let's see. Are you as impressed with the systems in Crimson Desert as you are with Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, or not comparable? They're similar. Clearly, Crimson Desert takes inspirations from Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, I feel like it's much more, that is the game, are those dynamics and the systems. That's the whole point of the shrines, is how those systems interact. With Crimson Desert, they have a lot of that. Based on the preview, I'm not sure if it's the same level of depth. Like, maybe this is a hot take. I don't know. I honestly don't know if this is a hot take. But I don't think Breath of the Wild had a very good combat system. Cancel me. I don't care. Cancel me. Just my opinion. Not that great. Very, very, very simple. This is trying to do way more than that. So I don't think that they're comparable in all facets or regards, but I do think clearly a lot of inspirations have been taken here. Yeah, whoa, hot take. Mounts, yes, many different mounts. We were only able to try the starter horse because that's the starter horse, but yeah, lots of different mounts. Donarumo, thank you for the 5. I'm usually terrible at combat. Do you think I'm going to have a bad time? No, I just think that if you are struggling with the combat, it just means that you need to explore more and get better gear to make it easier. So if you're bad with the combat, go find stuff to make combat easier and you'll have a good time. That's kind of my guess. Are barrels, etc. destructible? Yes. In fact, speaking of gameplay dynamics, there's a point where I was doing a quest where basically there was a fire. There were a couple of ways to deal with the problem the fire presented. I'll put it that way. But I looked around when that kind of kicked me off. It was like, deal with this. You could like run around, you could try to jump up and over, you could do that. But I saw off in the corner was a stack of barrels with a little teardrop on them. So I picked it up, chucked it, the barrel broke, the water spread and put out the fire. So they're even doing stuff like that. So that is a mechanic that happens. Yes, just be aware of that. There's all sorts of dynamics like that. What's the live service store like? A game can't make money without them, don't you know? Yeah, they did say no in-game store at launch. My guess is they probably add cosmetics or something after launch, but they are trying to sell this at the outset as is, make you convinced of the game as is at launch. Which I think is the appropriate way of doing it. I've always said, like, if you sell the game, if the game is amazing, you sell me the game, and after the fact, you're like, hey, for the players that are putting 5,000 hours in, we're going to give them cosmetics and make a little extra cash. I have no problem with that. As I've said before, my problem is when you have like an AC Shadows or AC Valhalla, really. AC Valhalla situation where the game has been built around the monetization. So the game is built to be really bloated, and then they sell you back XP boosters and crafting materials to make it easier or more enjoyable, and then they act like everything's fine. That I have a massive problem with, because it makes the game worse to sell you the solution, right? If the game is really, really good, and then afterwards you're like, hey, yeah, we'll give you cosmetics. Okay, I don't care about that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Especially if the game is really good, I hope it makes a lot of money. You know, if the game is amazing, I hope they make a lot of money and make another one. You know, like, why not? Are they paying you to say these great things? Dude, I wish, because I'm saying them for free. Will, hit me up, pay me, please. Like, dude, I wish. No, it's just, that's how it is, man. How's the crime system? So the crime system, let me put it this way. I didn't get the chance to really try it to a great extent to figure out just how much complexity was there. Jor Raptor's going to come on later on the stream and maybe he knows more. But my understanding is basically when you commit a crime, you get a reputation that drops for the region or for the city you're in. So if you commit a crime in here, your reputation with this area drops. Okay. If it gets bad enough, you do enough bad stuff, they're actually going to basically tag you for arrest. And what that means is that the city guard comes out and attacks you and tries to basically arrest you or kill you if you committed a grave enough sin. If your sin was not that great or grave, they may not kill you, but arrest you and take you to the prison, basically, the jail, and lock you up. And when they do that, they take a bunch of your money. They take a bunch of other stuff. If you stole items, I think they take the stolen items and then kick you back out and you go explore. But it does a lot of harm to your reputation in this area, which has all sorts of cascading effects. Like, I think there's certain items you can't buy if you have a bad reputation in that region. There's certain vendors that won't give you good deals and opportunities that you would get otherwise. So committing crimes, you can do it, but it's not something that you want to do lightly. You know, I imagine if you decide to play as a scoundrel, you know, doing a lot of nasty stuff, it's probably one of those things where you are going to lean into it. Like, that probably becomes your gameplay style from there. Mike, does it compare to the good parts of AC Odyssey? Narrative in the back seat, but fun side quests, exploration, and stealth even. I didn't really see anything I would consider to be stealth, so I don't really know about stealth aspects. But as for a lot of the good stuff with like the bigger dynamic faction based stuff, the big battles and wars and the meta mechanics between different factions on the map, the scale of the game certainly is reminiscent of the good parts of AC Odyssey for sure. And you know me, I love AC Odyssey. I think it gets way too much hate. It's become a little more popular recently to love on Odyssey. I think after Shadows, people are like, what are we missing? Oh, we used to have it really good. And so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I like me some Odyssey. Let's see. A lot of people worried about controls and combat, but if you grew up in the early 2000s before the Souls-like boom, this was the norm for third-person action games, etc. Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden. Yeah, naturally, it sounds very different from what people are used to. The sort of Souls-like meta has certainly gotten people used to a very particular type of combat with R1 light, R2 heavy, a roll / dodge, maybe a parry or a block or something, but that's like the extent of it. So this is going to shake it up. But that's why I've tried to be very, very clear with people that this does not control the way you probably are expecting it to control. I will say, starting the game from zero, it does ease you into it much better than just dropping halfway through the game. But yeah, this, anybody who's expecting this to be a really simple combat system, it's just not what it is. I love that. But again, it takes me back to the idea that I think there's going to be people who demand more yellow paint, who demand more guidance, and they're going to be frustrated that the combat doesn't work the way that they thought it would. There, I thought that my weapon would auto remove, but I still had the axe from chopping wood equipped. So like little things like that, that you'll learn the hard way one time, where you're like, oh, I thought it would just auto equip my sword when I started combat. Nope, you got to swap to your weapon. Okay, quickly do that. I can do that. Yeah, this is still the short sword. It's fine. It's fine. You can see that's an actual citizen of Hernand, one of the city guardsmen who was walking by and actually got involved with the conflict because he was walking by, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Fast travel. Yes, there is fast travel at certain points that you discover. It's not like AC games of modern era where there's a bajillion fast travel points. It's much more precise, which I appreciate, because if fast travel is so common and ubiquitous that you can go anywhere, fast travel wherever, whenever, it kind of ruins the point of exploration and running on foot, you know? So if fast travel is too convenient, there's no reason to actually explore, because you'll just fast travel to points that you've discovered, and you don't ever need to actually travel and explore and see anything dynamically, which is why big games like Red Dead 2, for example, really toned down the fast travel system. In fact, I've told the story before. I was talking to a friend of mine who loves Red Dead 2, and I mentioned the Red Dead fast travel system with the cart, and he was like, I had no idea that was even in there. I had no idea that there was fast travel in Red Dead 2. I had no idea. And I was like, because you didn't need it, and you didn't want it. You didn't want it. That's the key. You were okay with riding your horse while chasing through Lanny. You know, you were okay with that. So, can you throw weapons? I'm trying to think if I ever saw throwing weapons. I'm not sure. Maybe, probably. Let's see. Is there gore there? So, from what I saw, the gore is relegated in typical combat to like blood effects, blood splatter, things like that. As for like really gory decapitations or finishers, I don't recall seeing anything that really stood out to me. In boss fights and cutscenes and like cinematic moments, all bets are off. They can do whatever they want. But in terms of dynamic gameplay, like out in the world, I don't think there's anything quite on that level. Is it real? LOL. Yeah. Let's see. Does it have huge crawling dungeons? Not that I saw. That doesn't mean they're not in the game. It just means I did not see them. I did not see them. Thousandth Son. Good to see another heretic. Glad to have you. Thank you for becoming a member, my friend. Much love. Much love. Real Estate Poppy, thank you for the 5. Lol. So this is not a game for Asmongold or journalists. Got it. LOL. Different animations for cat holding. Sold. Game of the year. It's just, it's a game that rewards creative thinking. And that's something I love about it and that I really appreciate about it. But I also have seen enough occasions of people who need more guidance and they get really frustrated when they don't have it. I appreciate a game that is not trying to hold my hand. I like that, but some people hate it. Like even this, there's a big cliff I'm trying to climb up. Some people would just brute force it or ride all the way around. I remembered I had this force push ability. If you do the palm push, force whatever, I think it's called force palm officially, but if you do it after jumping, you press square to jump and then you tap R3 to do that push, which when you're standing just does a force push away for enemies. But when you jump, it pushes it down. You can actually use it to double or triple jump even to climb up even higher and faster to overcome great expanses, which is kind of baller. Kind of baller. Just barely made that ledge. Tell you what. See? How great is that? Whoops. Recoup the stamina. Climb up. There we go. I would recommend most people upgrade the stamina early and often. It makes your life way easier. Tell you what. Let's see. Can you parry? Yes, with L1. Certain things, like obviously if you have a shield, your parry windows and defense are going to be different than if you're just using a dual-handed greatsword or something. But yes, you can perfect parry if you land it properly. Yes. Did you get to mess with the base building at all? I did not. I did buy a hammer, which they gave me a tutorial pop-up showing that that's how you build stuff in your base, but I did not reach whatever the story point was to do that. I did also see this horse riding around, the horse with black spots. I heard multiple other people mention this horse, and some of them said they spent a long time trying to capture it and basically get it to be theirs. I did not, so I don't know if you can like capture the horse by riding on it and then it becomes yours, just like in like a Red Dead 2 or something. I honestly don't know, but I did hear a lot of people talking about trying to get this horse with the black spots, which apparently the fact that it is specific enough that it spawned here and multiple players were trying to chase this specific horse down makes me think that it's like a horse meant for you to chase after and try to get, but I'm not sure. Mr. Fahrenheit, thank you for the very generous 10. Hey Luke, second time donating. Love you. Have you seen anything about the pole vaulting shown 2 years ago? I haven't even seen it used again in any trailers or gameplays. I did not see that. I did not try it. I did try the tree catapulting though, and that did work. So I would imagine pole vaulting is also here. I just didn't get the chance to mess with it, but I'm not sure. They show Cliff using a sword and shield mostly, but can I choose to build around him using a great sword or a spear? Yes, I used a great sword for the vast majority of my time with the game. Once I discovered the great sword on the side of a road at an altar or like memorial sort of thing, and probably should have left it there. That's probably the respectful thing to do, but I took it for myself, and I used that great sword pretty much exclusively from then on. Can you control FOV? I believe so. Don't quote me on that because I don't recall exactly, but I think so. Not 1,000% sure, but I think so. What about voice cast and cinematics? All very well done. And this is the other thing. Every quest line that I did, I don't know if it's just the early game, it might change, but every quest line that I did was fully motion captured. This ain't no AC shadow stand there, in a perfect, like vertical, very stiff animations. That is not this game. This game is like very proudly motion capturing everything, even stuff that frankly they didn't need to motion capture. It's quite refreshing. Like even this, I go and I cut this guy's hands free, and I think it's also motion captured. Yeah.
Ah, by Solomon, I was sure I was done for. Oh, thank you. How can I repay you for your kindness?
Your friend sent me. You're Hubert?
I knew they wouldn't forsake me. Almighty Solomon, oh, thank you for bestowing your grace upon one as unworthy as I.
Probably best if you don't stick around.
Oh, indeed. Curse those damn gold leaves.
So you see what I mean? They didn't have to, but they did. And then he goes and picks it up because he's like such a nerd. He's like, okay, I'm sorry I broke that. Look, what the hell is that helmet? It's a vibe, isn't it? And Cliff's voice will sound different in the helmet versus out of the helmet, which is funny. But like everything that I saw was motion captured, which again is just a level of effort you just don't see. Like maybe it is the case that later in the game there's you know, it goes back to dynamic cutscenes or dynamic stuff just like in AC Shadows or Valhalla, but everything I saw was motion captured, which is crazy. How's the console version? We talked about it earlier in the stream, but basically we didn't get access to it. People in Korea did get access to play the PS5 version. They said PS5, base PS5 on quality mode was hitting around 40 to 45 frames per second unlocked, it seems. And then on PS5 performance mode, it went to 60 frames. That's what they're saying out of Korea. My understanding is they will have official statements about that sometime next week, probably would be my guess. But yeah, you will know how it runs officially there before launch. But it sounds like based on previews from that Korean event, it's like 60 FPS on performance mode, and then it's like 40 to 45 on quality mode. So there you go. Modding sport. Nothing official yet. Let me continue catching up on the super chats and everything real quick, everybody. Thank you for your patience and generosity. Red Redemption. I can't read. Oh my God. Redemption. I just am so used whenever I see redemption to go red before it. So my brain broke twice. It literally is just Redemption 44. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you. Much love. Much love. How's target lock? Way better than it was over the summer. So like this time it wasn't even something I even thought about. Over the summer it was frustrating. But yeah, over the summer it was rough. Way better. Let's see. Did you have some hard boss fights? And if yes, could you show it? Asks Addicted Gamer. Yes, there is one that took me a number of tries. This guy, Kylok, the Horn Splitter. They've shown this in trailers, so it's not really a spoiler or anything. But bro, he moves so much faster than anybody you've seen up until this point in the game. It's like actually crazy. He's just built different, dude. Like look at these moves, the sweeping attacks. Way different than anybody. There were 3 boss fights that I did. One against a knight Matthias early in the game. It's like the tutorial boss fight, basically, a little while into the game. And then the second one was Kylok, the Horn Splitter. And then there was a third one I tried in the end game save who kicked my ass. No spoilers because I'm pretty sure he was dropping lore in his dialogue, and I was like, oh God, that's like a big deal. If that means what I think it means, that's crazy. Can we learn that sweep attack? I'm just here. I'm just hanging out. I'm just here. What do you want from me? How do you feel it will, or how do you think it'll perform on a 5080 at 4K? I think on a 5080 at 4K, you're probably in the realm of like on ultra settings, like 90 to 100 frames before upscaling. And bear in mind, Digital Foundry said there's a setting above ultra called cinematic. As far as I'm aware, nobody's seen what cinematic looks like. I think everything they've shown in trailers is ultra. So cinematic is even better than that. So I don't even know what that would look like, man. But apparently there's a setting even above that. So there you go. Can you interrupt your own attacks with blocking or parries? I'm not sure if technically you're interrupting them, but the attacks are each individually fairly fast, so I was always able to parry very, very quickly. But like if you start a big combo or like a big charged up attack, you've committed to that. But it all felt very, very responsive. But I'd have to do more testing to see specifically if you can animation cancel out of regular attacks. Big like abilities like the R1 circle or like an R2 circle or something, those you're committed to, as far as I'm aware, but I'm not sure about regular chain attacks or whatever. Not sure if you mentioned this, but where the boss is hard. Thank you for that, Tech Down Under. The first one I thought was very easy, but he was like the first tutorial, first chapter boss, you know. The second boss was this guy, the Horn Splitter. He was challenging. I mean, after like 3 or 4 tries, I figured out his moveset and then beat him, and it was fine. As I showed you earlier in the stream. But the third boss I went up against kicked my ever-loving ass. Like, he was crazy. Again, like, it's not been shown publicly because it's got spoilers and stuff in it, but he was crazy. There was a guy sitting next to me as well who was having trouble with one of the puzzles in the end game save. So they let him load into a separate save to go and explore a circus. And I think it's the same circus that was shown in trailers, though I'm not sure. And he found and got to experience a boss tied to that, which looked freaking awesome. And he also was not able to beat that boss, but it looked awesome. So there's, as far as I can tell, there's a good number of bosses and good number of things that they've not shown. Some of us were hoping, I was worried that pretty much they've blown their load, that they showed all the bosses and there's like 5 or 6 and that's it. I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more we've not seen. It's my suspicion. It's my guess. But the fact that even in that end game save, they were quickly like, which boss should I give him? Should I let him try the circus one? Okay. It's like there were that many choices that you had to check. Oh. You know, it's very interesting. Anyway, let me continue catching up on these. Let's see. Is it worth purchasing? As always, I think you should still wait for reviews because we just don't know what the end game is like. But I was very, very impressed. Because of this game, I'm confident GTA 6 will run at 60 on the Pro. It says Westside Maverick with a 5. Thank you for that. I genuinely am not sure about, because apparently GTA is specifically CPU bound. But you would think that all the stuff they're doing with like NPC simulations, you'd think this game would also be CPU bound, but they're finding a way to do it. It's kind of insane. Sneaky Pickle, thank you for 4 months. Can you disable the mini map, and how did crafting feel? Crafting, the little bit I did some cooking and stuff, because if you don't know, basically the cooking is how you heal. So you cook little meals, you might buy some from vendors and stuff like that, just like in maybe a Witcher 3 in addition to your potions. That's how you get healing items. So I experimented with that. As for other crafting stuff, like I think I crafted some arrows and little things like that. It was very straightforward, nothing too crazy, but to be fair, I only spent like 10 minutes on it. Not much more to say about that. Other than that, UI customization. I believe there is UI customization. I would imagine you can turn off the mini map, but to be honest, I did not try it myself. I did not try it. Apostinator, thank you for the 5. Hey Luke, I'm stoked that you were able to review Crimson Desert. Love the video. Do I have permission to go full hype mode without becoming stupid? I will say, I think it's okay to be very excited. I think it's okay to be excited. Based on what I saw, I'm excited. I want to play more. Yes, I do have a review code. Yes, I can play more, but you know what I mean? When I left the event and I didn't have a review code, I was like, I want more, you know? So there's that. How does the actual movement feel with the character? Does it feel floaty, or does it feel like Red Dead 2? It's much slower, much closer to like a Red Dead 2. Still more responsive sounds bad. Still more, I guess, light than Red Dead 2's, but certainly heavier than a lot of games. Like, he does not move like Geralt. Geralt's super floaty in The Witcher 3. He's much heavier. Any new dragon riding footage? No new footage. I did see Luality ride on the dragon. She flew it around, attacked a village. And then after killing tons of innocents, she flew the dragon up and then leapt off accidentally. So she went in riding a dragon, commanding it to throw fireballs down, and then just leapt off, fell to her death. It was quite funny just to imagine the poor villagers be like, oh no, the world's... Did she fall off? Oh. Okay. Huh. It was a vibe, honestly. There you can see me swapping to the great sword very, very quickly instead of using the short sword that it defaulted to. I could also just unequip the short sword, but I was in too deep. I was in the boss fight, trying to figure it out. This is the slow time mechanic you can also use. It's called focus. I believe it's pressing both sticks down. You can do that to slow time down to respond to certain attacks or plan responses to certain attacks. But you see with him, he's just so freaking quick. He closes that distance so fast. Took me a little while to figure out the moveset. Once it clicked for me, I was able to get through him pretty fast. But yeah, it took a minute. Rami, thank you for that one. One detail, can we remove the shield from Cliff's back? So like make it not visible on his back either by swapping to a different weapon type or unequip it from the inventory menu so it's not possible. Yeah, you can swap out all the equipped items and things like that. You can swap them out. Yes. My sister will be playing Crimson Desert on her Mac Studio. Can't wait. Dude, I'm genuinely curious about the performance. I'm so curious. I want to know. Let's see. H3S2. I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, Luke, just came to the stream to ask how big is the map / how empty and full is it? Vast empty spaces are filled to the brim. It's freaking gigantic. You know, it's twice the size of the overworld of Skyrim, and it is larger than the map of Red Dead 2. So it's massive. As for how dense is it, it is pretty jam-packed from what I saw. It's I don't think that they're like cheating to get that stat. I don't think it's like, you know, half of it is completely empty. I get the feeling there's a lot of dynamics and stuff going on. We only got to see a little bitty sliver, but the fact that after just 6 hours, we were busy for those 6 hours and the map is still freaking gigantic and there's still a ton of other stuff to see, that gets me excited, you know. There's going to be a lot more. Can you change camera angles? Yes, you tap on the D-pad and it'll zoom the camera in or out, or even outside of combat, go to first-person perspective if you want to explore in first-person perspective. For the late game save that you played, did you ungrateful to play as the other characters? I think you're asking if we could play as other characters. In the one I had, no. There were other people that got to play as like the female playable character that were allowed to load that save because they were having trouble with the puzzle. So instead of just having them bash their head against the wall, they were like, okay, load into this, try the playable character. I did not do that, but I did see other people play her, and she had a totally unique combat system and movements and stuff. It was cool, but I did not see that. Let's see. Caleb, thank you for the 10. Very generous. You mentioned the main story doesn't look like it's going to be a big focus / draw of the game. What about faction side quests? Are they engaging like Elder Scrolls or more of the same and more like Elden? I think the faction stuff is interesting, to be honest. We didn't get a good look at it because I think a lot of it is tied to the end game with like, I think that's a lot of the sort of meta game beyond just doing the basic tasks. So we didn't get to see much of it. So I honestly am not sure. What I saw from the side quests and the main quests, all of them had stories associated with it. I didn't have to do anything. I guess I'll add one caveat to that. There was a couple of small tasks. I wouldn't even call them quests, where like the blacksmith asks you to go collect ore and they're teaching you how to gather that resource to craft. So it's more like a tutorial than it is an actual quest. Those were just fetch quests. Go grab ore and bring it to this guy. But other than that, everything that I did had a story associated with it, had motion captured cutscenes, had stuff like that, actual like high effort stuff. So yeah, I think there's a lot of effort that's been put into it, but I just don't know beyond that what it's going to be like. Because a lot of that stuff that you're referencing is in the late game. 1021 RDS, thank you for the 10. Crimson Desert looks pretty good, but God, I hate the combat. Every single time you hit an enemy and it slows the game down and freezes. I can't watch more than 5 minutes of combat without getting a headache. Interesting. I believe they call them, do they call them stop frames? There's a name in animation for it, where basically they have the enemy freeze and kind of hold still for a frame or two while the animation is carrying out. So like he attacks, it kind of hits, makes contact, and then continues. And it's something they actually do even in games like The Last of Us, where hit stop, is that what they call it? Yeah, hit stop. Where like Joel will go in and they'll actually snap it too, where Joel will skip a few frames of his animation to click onto contact with the enemy, because they found in testing it made it feel more impactful, and as opposed to just smoothly going through like they motion captured it. So it is intentional. I'm sorry if it gives you motion sickness or something, or if you don't like it, that's too bad, because it's a pretty common thing. Yeah, just like look at the scope of the vista. It's crazy. It's crazy. Even that, did you see that? When you were asking about movement, it's like, look at this. I pull back on the left stick And instead, or in this case, the camera angle's changed. So I'm pushing the left stick forward. So I'm basically telling Cliff to walk backwards. But instead of just snapping around and moving backwards immediately, like a lot of games do, watch what happens. He actually takes a few backward steps before turning around. It's that motion blending, animation blending that you don't see in a lot of games. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. As for grappling, yes, you can grapple. I forget the button prompt, but you can unequip your weapon and just go fisticuffs and do like suplex moves and stuff like that. Yes, you can do that. I can't wait for Crimson Desert. I'm mostly gonna do the hand-to-hand combat, but also throw enemies or explore and just do parkour and free roam. Says Armina Coleman. That is a very valid way of playing. Absolutely. Absolutely. But does it have fishing? It does have fishing. Says Brushborn Studios. Yes, it does. Thank you for the 2. Mr. Fahrenheit, thank you for the 5. I didn't hear you talk about it in your video, so I got to ask, did you have access to any wrestling moves in your first 4 hours or the end game save? Yes. Like I said, I don't remember the button prompt. It's something triangle, but there is a way to unequip your weapons and to do like the suplex moves and to do that. So yes, there is a way to do that. Yes. Leap thank you for the 10. I'm so in love with guns in medieval games, but all trailers only show the girl using it. Can the main character use it? I did not find a time where I was able to equip a rifle or use it, but I don't see why he wouldn't be able to, because I think it's a weapon that you can equip. I just assume it's a late game weapon, so I don't know. Are there big weapons or are there big dungeons like Zelda? I did not see any dungeons like Zelda. Maybe there are, maybe there's not. I don't know. The Sky Islands range from small and quick to pretty massive and complicated to get through. So those could also maybe count as like their version of shrines. It's just, we only saw a snippet of them and there's a lot. Again, they told us that the estimated thing, they were like, if you want to 100% complete this, it's probably hundreds of hours. There's that much stuff here. Yeah, is there a jump button, jump slash combos? Yes, there's even jump and then R3. So jump, ground pound. If you do the jump and press R3 to do the force push down, that applies force down. So if you jump over an enemy and then do the force push to jump higher, it also pushes down and that deals damage to the enemy as well. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. Did I notice pop-in? Yes, there is pop-in with NPCs and stuff occasionally. There's also like small rocks on the ground will pop in as you're riding. When you first boot it up, it's really noticeable. After like 10 minutes, your brain tunes it out really aggressively and you don't realize it anymore. You'll watch the footage back and be like, oh yeah, I guess that is popping in, but you don't really notice it. The weapons, there's a lot. Some of the end game stuff that we got to see, we had like a ghost spirit. I don't think it was a spear, it was like a halberd. That thing was awesome. There were weapons that had different movesets associated with them. It was very, very cool. There's a lot here. There's a lot. Yeah. Let's see. For the late game save, that you played? Oh yeah, that question about other characters. I did not, but other people did. Hey Luke, any word on New Game Plus? We're still working on stuff. We have stuff going on in the background. It's just a lot of ducks to get in a row for something like that. But yes, it's still rocking and rolling. We are working on stuff. Don't you worry. We have some exciting things we're working on. Hopefully they come together. Triple Galaxy, thank you for the 10. How is the weapon durability system? I'm stupid. I thought you meant the New Game Plus showcase that we started. I realize you're asking about New Game Plus in Crimson Desert, which makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense. You're probably thoroughly confused right now. Yeah, so as for New Game Plus in Crimson Desert, I did not hear an answer. I don't know if they have communicated that. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Not sure. Triple Galaxy, thank you for the 10. How's the weapon durability system? Do weapons break or get weaker? Will Powers answered this question for us when he came on stream. He said that I believe what he said was that the weapons are not based on a durability system like Breath of the Wild or Zelda or anything. Instead, there are certain items that are bespoke to like certain story beats or quests and things, and they have specific number of uses, but regular combat is not dictated in that way. I believe that's what he said. I believe. Yeah. Let's see. And then Master Joe, thank you for the 2. They're a quick counter arc like Shadows of Mordor. Oh, quick, not arc. I can't read. ATK, attack, quick counter attack. I believe with certain weapons, so certain really fast weapons, you could probably parry and quickly respond. For the bigger ones, it's like parry, slows them, and then you start a combo or whatever. Is there a grapple like grabbing orcs in Shadow of War, or is there bosses like Eritree's avatars at specific POIs? There are bounties that move around the map dynamically, so there will be moments where like you'll find a poster on a post, and it will be like, this guy has been spotted in the area. That bounty will actually physically move around the map. And so if you don't get him right then and there, he will move. He won't be there anymore. So you can't grab that bounty and just leave and come back later. So there are dynamic bosses and quests like that, but maybe tied to this POI, but then they move somewhere else after, you know, an in-game hour or something like that. As for the Shadow of Mordor grapple, I'm assuming you mean the thing where like you grab him and then you're able to like stab quickly. There is a move like that. I don't think it plays the same way as Shadow of Mordor, where like you hold him hostage as you move around. But there is a move where you grab, go behind, and stab, if that's what you mean. Yeah. I know there's wrestling / grappling moves, but I got to know if we're able to do those on random civilians in town. That I genuinely don't know. I did not try. that. I think I know somebody who probably did try that, so I'll have to ask him. I think Sarth tried that. I think. So I'll have to ask him. Do they have weapons and loot available like Elden Ring? Have you seen a katana? I have not seen a katana, and they do have a lot of loot. Yeah, that's primarily how they get you to explore, is by having stuff for you to find. The launching off trees reminds me of a Bolly or Tollywood film called Buhabali. LOL, look it up. I think I know exactly what you're talking about, because I think I've seen that clip that you're referencing, actually. I'd be scared of pulling it up in case there's copyright, but I'm pretty sure I know exactly the clip you're talking about, because I've seen it too, and it's funny. Yeah. Might have missed you responding earlier, but are there armor set bonuses? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Is the audio good? Yeah, the audio was very good. I didn't run into any problems. Motion capture and voice acting is also really solid from what I saw. Let's see the icon image. Thank you for the 2. Also asked how many buildings can you enter? Frankly, a lot of them. I did run into buildings that the door was locked and it said you need a key to enter, which might just mean that you can't enter. There is no key. It might also mean that there is a way to get in there, and it's tied to a quest that I haven't seen. So I don't know. Can you be stealthy? I did not have any quest lines that were tied to stealth. So like you can crouch. There was a quest outside of a cave where you could go up and sort of sneak around. You could do that to avoid a combat encounter. So I do think there will be times where being stealthy is helpful and benefits you. But at least in the first 4 hours, I did not see anything that was like a quest asking me to be stealthy. I didn't see anything like that. So maybe, but that's it. Let's see. I'm caught up there. Again, sorry to the Twitch fam for the stream not working over there. Real almost caught up on these. T-Bail, thank you for the 5. Are you able to lock on? How can you keep your direction on an enemy? Do you whiff a lot while attacking, or does it track? So there is a lock on. It doesn't work the way that most would work, because R3 is already routed. I believe I forget the button combo, but there is a way to do it. It works way better than it did over the summer, where I played it and had a lot of trouble with attacks whiffing and stuff. I don't know if I just got good or if they greatly improved it, but it felt way better at least. Yeah, you can whiff attacks, but once you get a feel for it and you direct them properly, it's not really a massive problem. So yeah, 23 months. Oh baby, this is the first game since Cyberpunk 2077 that I'm excited for about having a 5090. But if this is on a 7900 XTX, realistically, how much more can be squeezed out? Like I said, there's a setting above ultra. So apparently there's a cinematic quality setting, which is above even ultra. And I don't think we've seen any footage of what that even looks like. So it's got to be insane. It's got to be really good, but time will tell. Total Malarkey, thank you for the 5. Luality referred to a cowboy next to her holding a cat and petting it. Since you said you were next to her, are you a cowboy? I am not a cowboy. I'm assuming she probably means in the end game, because I wasn't right next to her in the end game. Cowboy might have been next to her. Or no, I'm mixing them up. I was next to, I think Cowboy was sitting on her left for the first 4 hours. So I think that's what it is. Fighting Cowboy, like the literal YouTuber named Fighting Cowboy. I think that's what it is. I think that's who she's referring to. Because I think he was on her other side. I think so. That's funny though. Dostroid, thank you for the 10. Very generous. Do you think the main character looks generic? I've heard people call him generic, but I don't think so. But to each their own. As a generic white guy myself, I think if you're a white dude with dark hair and a beard, people are going to call you generic. It's just how it works. Okay. People say that I look very generic all the time. That's okay. Okay. I'm not worried about it. If you think he looks generic, that's too bad. I'd much rather him look generic than, end up with blue hair and a ponytail, like I'd prefer this, frankly. John Desert. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like studios try too hard to make their characters look unique, and I don't think you need that. Sometimes being generic works great because guess what? If you look generic, it means you look like normal for the average person. You look generic, you look ordinary, which allows for people to relate to your character a lot more. If you make your character look like some sort of chemical experiment gone awry, yeah, they'll be unique. They won't look generic anymore, but they may be harder for people to connect with, You know what I mean? Nah, I mean? Like Jon Snow. Exactly. Yeah, identity politics. I don't think it's even politics. Maybe for some people, I guess some people it does turn into a political discussion. For me, I'm just like, if you don't play a game because you think the character looks weird, that's a stupid reason not to play a game. Okay? There's plenty of games that are amazing where the characters look weird, especially if you go back in time, dude. Like, character designs used to be funky and weird. It's a bad reason not to play a game because, like, I don't know, their butt is flat. Like, that's stupid. That, in my opinion, that's stupid. Play a game based on the game, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. If people are like, I was gonna play Crimson Desert, but the character looks too generic, like, get out of here. Go touch grass. Go play in a bush. Do something else. You don't deserve games if you're gonna be like, yeah, he's too normal. Looks like he could be a mattress salesman. Maybe I do want to play as a mattress salesman. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Do you think... I just read that one. Everett Williams, thank you for the 5. Do they have weapons and loot like Elden Ring? Oh, yeah, like I answered that one. Yes, they have a lot of loot. Were you only constricted to the beginning section of the map, or could you go to Demonis or the Crimson Desert? You could go wherever you wanted. It was fully open. But like I said, the enemies in other areas are going to be more powerful. So if you go there before you have weapons and armor and stuff that's good, you're gonna have a bad time, I would imagine. So we could have gone anywhere. There were people that tried to, and that's what they spent their time doing while I was doing like the main story and trying some of the questing and stuff. They were just running in one direction, which is absolutely valid. You can test games and preview games that way. I usually at preview events try though to play it the way I think the average gamer will, instead of trying to just break it.
Super chat. Hey Luke, this is John Wisniewski's mom. He's really upset that you don't think people play games to look like in his characters.
I'm sorry, John Wisniewski's mom. I offer my most humble apology. I should have known better. I'm sorry. Oh man. Let me see. Sam Cohen, thank you for the 5. Thanks for the answer on Motion Blur. I mostly play modern/story open world games on my PS5. It sounds like I'm going to turn it off to get the better visuals. Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. Like Motion Blur, it serves a purpose with lower refresh rate and lower frame rates. When you get to higher refresh rates and higher frame rates, I just think it muddies it up unnecessarily, But if you try to play like a 30 FPS game with no motion blur, dude, it feels like you're watching a stop motion picture. You know, doesn't work. Even film, 24 FPS movies, they have natural motion blur because of, it's called the 180 degree rule. Basically, if you're shooting at 24 frames, your shutter speed is set to just double whatever your frame rate is. So if you shoot at 24 frames, your shutter speed is 1/50th of a second, which means that's how much light is exposed to the frame for each one. And that produces a natural motion blur. When you get to higher refresh rates, that kind of breaks down, because if you are playing at 120 FPS, that means your shutter speed is going to be 1/240th of a second. And so it's already like, there's not going to be any blur. So just turn it off. What's the point? What's the point? Save options. There's like a list of saves that you can select from or save to, and then there's auto saves and stuff. So it's not locked like, one save permanently. There's options. There's ones you can go to. Will my thumb hurt from button mashing? I don't think so. If it does, you're probably playing wrong. Probably playing wrong. Mr. Fahrenheit, thank you for the 5. Do you know if loot is like Odyssey, where you can find loot randomly in a chest, or is the loot like weapons in certain locations? I believe it's like the latter, but don't quote me on that for sure. I believe it's like the latter though, where it's probably dynamic for the NPCs and everything, but I believe there's specific things to be found in the world at certain locations where like a guide will be made, and it's like, this is how you find the best sword in Crimson Desert. And that's how you're going to do it. That's how you're going to do it. Yeah. Venby, thank you for the membership. Cameron, thank you for the 2. Also, the other 2 where you said, what was your favorite moment from the open world? I would say in the end game save, there was a moment transitioning to the Sky Island that was quite cool. Basically, it was like puzzle, something happens, you get to the Sky Island, puzzle, boss. And after the first puzzle, that transition to the Sky Island was quite cool. It was quite cool. That was probably my standout. And of course, I can't show it to you. Of course, that's one I don't have a recording of. How much can you carry? Not endlessly. The inventory system does require you to manage it a little bit. Certain items stack, so you can carry like 50 bugs all together in one jar. You don't have to have like 50 inventory slots for each individual bug, but you will have to just be aware of it. You can't just button mash, click and pick up everything. Yeah. Sam Cohen, thank you also for the membership. And for that $2 from Tyler, does dynamic weather affect health like Tears of the Kingdom? I mentioned earlier, I wanted to see if you could try it with like, does lightning strikes, does it hit your sword if you have it equipped? I couldn't get in a thunderstorm with lightning to test it, so I don't know. As for will it affect temperature? Yes, it will, which is a stat that they track. So for example, so you can see here in this snippet, it's actually tracking the day, the time of day, the weather, and the temperatures of the areas you're in, the lows and the high. So I imagine, I don't know this for sure, but it's going to track that and affect different things if you're in the snowy regions versus the desert. I don't know if that means you have to have different equipment applied in certain areas, if you have to have different armor or different clothing equipped in the highlands versus in the desert. I don't know, but they're tracking it for a reason. I don't know why else they would track it and simulate it if they weren't going to use it, So given all the other inspirations from Breath of the Wild, I would imagine that that's something that they are going to do something with, but I'm not sure. Thoughts on Crimson Desert's Collector's Edition? Is it worth the price? As far as I know, it's sold out everywhere. So even if it was worth the price, nobody can buy it. The statue looked cool, but I think it's sold out everywhere. Even some people, we had somebody in chat yesterday who bought it on Amazon and their order was canceled and they're not going to get it. So I did let Will know that a lot of people have told me that. He was like, dude, that's way above my pay grade. He's like, that's like head honchos in Korea ordering a certain number of them. He's like, that's way above my pay grade. So they're aware of it. Who knows? Maybe they'll do a second run or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's sold out freaking everywhere. Thank you again, Caleb, for the very generous 20. Walter, thank you for the 5. Have they ever mentioned modding on PC? They've not, and I don't think they've confirmed anything. Sam Cohen, again, thank you for that membership, by the way. Okay, so to wrap all of this up, real quick Spark Notes. I was thoroughly impressed. There's a lot going on. The combat's really solid. I did run into bugs in the endgame save. Hopefully those are fixed by the time the game launches. Overall, really impressive. You need to play it like Tears of the Kingdom. Even then, it's going to be like, it does not hold your hand. There's very little yellow paint. As a result, some people are going to be frustrated. Some people are going to get lost and get stuck. The puzzles, apparently people also were struggling with. That's something to just consider if you struggle with puzzles. I'm hearing through the grapevine that there were other people that tried the game that struggled with puzzles. So even though I thought that they could be more complicated and more challenging, some people are saying that they had a rougher time with those. So be aware of that. Performance wise, it was rock solid. And I even after, like, yes, at this point I do have a review code. Even after the preview, I was like, I want to play more right now. So I left being very, very excited for more. As for performance on console, which a lot of people are asking about, just to share this with everybody. Again, Cammy clipped this. This is from a Korean YouTube channel. And this is with the automated voiceover. You can see the clip and watch the full thing. It's a full video linked here. But somebody in Korea went to a preview event, the same type of preview event we went to, but they were given access to the console version. And they said that on base PS5, console has a quality mode that is hitting between 40 and 45 FPS, seemingly unlocked somewhere in there. And then if you play not on quality mode, but on performance mode, you'll hit 60 frames. They've not shared that publicly beyond this, but that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Luke's telling us he's smarter than most streamers at game reviews. I'm saying I'm very good at a select few things. Okay. When I go and do like escape rooms, I go hard at escape rooms. Okay. I go hard. I try to break those records, baby. I've always loved puzzles. You guys know me. I used to play chess like competitively in tournaments back in high school. I've always loved brain teasers and stuff. I love that kind of thing. If you asked me to bake a loaf of bread, I'd be screwed. But yeah, I can follow a recipe, but you get what I mean. I'm good at select few things. Puzzles and games are typically one of them, but sometimes I also suck. In this particular case, in this game, I thought the puzzles were pretty straightforward and overly easy, but I found out today when previews went up that other people disagreed. So make of that what you will. I think this is going to be one of those games where you see people who are really good at the combat system, and it's going to make most people look like they have no freaking clue what they're doing. Because some of these guys are crazy. This is probably the best combat gameplay footage I've seen. Like, their moveset is crazy. They're doing so good. Anyway, so I've been thoroughly impressed. I think, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. It's reasonable to be excited for it. As always, you should wait for reviews, especially because we have big questions around console performance still. People want to see it actually confirmed, how it runs. And I have questions about bugs and things in the late game, which remain to be answered. So, of course, sub for the reviews and stuff when those come. But there you go. There you go. Crimson Desert. I'm impressed, and I can't wait to see more. There you go. When's the release date? March 19th. You got 2 weeks, my friend. He took my